Wi-Fi is great until you're too far away to get any signal. And that is exactly my problem, because I want Wi-Fi in this room right here. I plan to make this into my YouTube studio, but I can't do that until I've installed some networking cable. Welcome back to the channel, I'm Scott, and in this video we're installing CAT6A cable from the front of my house to the back. We're going to be clipping cables, digging trenches, because we want to get this CAT6A cable safely from the front of my house all the way to the back. So let's get to it. The plan today is to get this installed at the front of the house where the router is and where the internet comes into the house, clip it around and up onto the barge board, take it around the side of the house where I am now and down towards the back, down the wall, under the ground, into the garage and through the garage into the room where I want to install this cable for internet. The room is going to be my YouTube studio eventually, which means I'll be able to spend a little bit more time separated from the house to make YouTube videos and hopefully help me just increase the quality of these videos just a little bit and give me some headspace, because it's quite manic in my house having a 3-year-old now and another baby on the way. So let's get this cable installed. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the area by digging a trench, which is the part between the house and the garage, which is where I want it to be, and then we're going to start clipping the cable. So let's get to it.
Before I make any connections or before I drill through the wall, I'm just clipping the cable in place and leaving a little bit on the end so I have enough to push through the wall afterwards. I'm doing that because I want to minimize any disturbance to the inside of the house for as long as possible. That way I can tackle it all in one go when I'm ready. There's going to be no joins in this, so I'm just running enough cable that's going to reach from the front of the house all the way to the back. And to clip this cable onto the brickwork, I'm clipping these special cable clips into the mortar lines, which seems simple enough, but if the mortar gives way, you might have to find another mortar line to go at. This can be kind of frustrating, but once you're up to the barge board, you're then clipping into the timber, which is much easier, but you are working at height. You could clip this lower down, but I've got black cable and a black barge board, so by clipping it there, the cable won't be seen.
The temperature has dropped a lot, hence why I've got the hood and the hat on, but I'm making a connection now from where the cable ends on the wall to where we're going to start going into this conduit. So I'm burying this cable 600 mil deep, between 500 and 600 mil deep, and I want to put, even though it's rated for outdoor, I wanted to put it in a conduit when it goes underground. That's going to protect the cable a lot more, because remember, it's not armored cable. So I'm putting it in this plastic conduit, and these come with connectors that look like this. You can't buy these separately, you have to buy them with this conduit, and it is quite expensive. So if you have the pack, don't lose these, because you're going to have to buy a load more of the conduit as well. And this just clips on to there, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this properly on the camera, but it just clips around just like that and clips together. Now you've got an end which is for a 25 mil fitting, and that'll fit straight on to whatever adapter that you've got. So I'll show you what that looks like. This is a standard connector for conduit, which you can buy from most places like Toolstation and Screwfix, and those two just screw together usually. Those two just screw together like that. Now they are not coming undone. The best thing about having this on the end is that you can now get some 25 mil conduit, which I don't have any right here now, but it's like black pipe like this, and those two go and slot nicely into each other. This is 15 mil. I just need to get the 25 mil and that'll slot right in there. And what we will result in is we'll have this gland on the end of the 25 mil pipe. Remember, this is 15, but eventually I'll be doing this exact same thing on the 25 mil pipe. And again, that is just a connector, which is the same as we used before, smooth on one side, and it's got a thread on the inside there. And then we've got a gland which the cable will go into. So all in all, we're going to have those two together, we're going to have the pipe in the end, the cable's going to come in through here, I'm going to attach this to the wall, probably for about the first metre out of the ground. This will go all the way down to 600 deep, 600 mil deep in the ground, and then this is where we're going to be making the connection into it like that, and I'm going to tape this up. That means that no water is ever going to get in to that, and it should be nice and dry inside there and protected. So let's get on with it.
As I was carefully digging the trench to lay the new CAT6 cable in, I did actually find the SWA power cable which was powering the garage. I decided to uncover all of it and realised it wasn't buried as deep as it should be to regulations. So whilst I'm already digging a trench, I thought I would disconnect the garage power and then reconnect it all up, but with the cable at the right depth. The only qualification I have for renovation work is a domestic electrical installer certification, which does class me as a competent person to work on electrics in a household. So at this point, you would either leave it or get a qualified person in to reconnect that power in your garage if you did want to move that cable. And there we have it, the SWA cable at the right depth, and I've had to feed it underneath the drain pipe to get it to the right depth. 90% of the work on a project like this is feeding the cable and making it look neat when it's done. It wasn't easy feeding the cable through the conduit. If anybody has a quick tip or trick to get cable like this through the conduit, then please let me know in the comments. It won't just help me on future projects, it will help others who are thinking of doing this job.
So I finally feel like we've got through the difficult part of this project, which is digging a trench between the garage and the house, and I've done it. So it started off with me digging this trench, but I uncovered the SWA cable which powers the garage behind me, and I realised that it wasn't actually as deep as it should be in the ground. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is because a drain pipe was in the way. So I've excavated the area and basically dug underneath the drain pipe and now fit the SWA cable underneath that drain pipe. I've done the same for my CAT6A cable. I've put it in the conduit and then I've put the conduit underneath the drain pipe. The only thing left that I need to do now is fill it all in with pea shingle, and then just until the cables and the conduit are covered, and then I'm going to do the rest in MOT1, which I do have some spare bags of on the property. One thing I'm really happy about so far is how the conduit looks on the house. It looks really good. It's got the 25mm gland on top, which is going to seal it from any water getting in, and it just looks pretty smart. So I feel like it's a professional job so far. What's left really now is, once this is all filled in, I'm going to clip the CAT6A through the garage and into the building at the back, what will be my YouTube studio, and we should be then just making connections, and I'll show you how to make those connections towards the end of the video. So let's get this hole filled in.
I didn't really know what to fill the trench back in with, so I used some sharp sand to cover all of the cables and then filled the rest with MOT Type 1. I just thought the sand would protect the cables from the sharp MOT Type 1, but it would be great to know what the actual process for this is. I also decided to put some yellow tape over where the cables are. It's important to note that this will all be replaced. I'm not planning on keeping these slabs, it's just here for the temporary whilst I'm working on the house and making a big mess with all the different building materials that I'm using. And also I don't want anyone tripping over either. So if I can get this area nice and square, nice and flat, nice and clean, then at least I don't have to worry about any of those things until I'm able to address the driveway project in full. Because I broke away some of the concrete slab for the garage floor to get the cable out, I made up a new mix of pea shingle, sand and cement to fill that back in and make it look good. However, I did make it a little bit too wet.
Right, so we're now at the stage finally where we're going to be bringing the new CAT6A cable straight through this wall here into what will be a faceplate for the new connection. But first I've got to drill a big hole with this straight through both layers of brickwork.
What you've just seen is my simple process for making the neatest job possible when cutting a bat box into a wall. I start by marking out with a pencil the size of the bat box, and then I go over that mark with a Stanley knife. That breaks the surface of the plaster. I then use a chisel to knock away all of that loose plaster within the middle, and then start drilling, chain drilling a load of holes into the brickwork behind and following up with a chisel. When you're drilling brickwork like this, the best thing to do is just take your time and let the drill do the work. This is the part where we're going to make our first connection. It might seem daunting on the surface, but it's actually quite easy when you break it down. I did a test sample before I did any other connections, just so I could see how it all worked and how it all went together. I filmed it just so you could see it too. To make it easy to find what I'm using, I've put a link in the description, but this is a shielded RJ45 faceplate with CAT6A toolless single port. And to me, that doesn't really mean a lot, but I know it's the thing I need to make this end connection. I'm just showing here how easy it is to click it all together. But before you can do this, you need to attach your cable. There is a process for cutting this cable down in the right way, and there are specific tools you can buy to make it easier. I think if you've got a good pair of crops and a Stanley knife, you should be able to do this easily, just like I have. So here we're just removing a load of the sheath and the protection. So remove the black plastic and remove that metal wire sheath, mesh, whatever you want to call it. That helps protect the cable. That needs to come off. And then there is some foil-like material which surround each one of those data cables. You'll see that the data cables are actually entwined, and that's okay for now, but they do need to be separated before we make the final connection. Once all the foil's removed, it should look something like this. The reality is you're not going to do this right first time. If you do, amazing, but if not, the best thing to do is do what I've done here, do a test piece, make sure you know exactly how it all goes together, and then when you come to cut down the final length, you're not going to ruin the cable or cut it too short that you can't make the connection. What's really cool about this part is the actual fitting has the colors for each cable on it. So unless you're colorblind or have really bad eyesight, this part is very difficult to get wrong. You just bend over each cable into the right placement and then trim any ends that might be sticking out. There's no need to expose the ends of the copper like I've done here. That was just for demonstration. It should all push together quite easily. Don't get me wrong, it might be a little bit snug like mine was, but I think they're designed that way. So you push them together and then you close the cap afterwards. And there we have it. That's how you terminate a CAT6A cable. Granted, this is a bit easier when you're sitting at the kitchen table. When you're doing it up against a wall and you're on your knees, it is a little bit more tricky. Plus, you don't have as much cable to play with.
With the final ports installed, we now have internet. It was a bit of a tricky job getting it through the garage, but eventually I got there and made that final connection, and now I can start making this into a YouTube studio, which I'm excited about. So thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you found it useful, and if you did, make sure you like it and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.